Welcome back. Now, last week's Job Summit saw businesses make presentations and committing to collaborate with government in creating 275,000 jobs. Now, this could provide temporary relief, but the country still needs to get to the crux of the matter, which many would say is the current skills deficit in the country. Now, how will this exercise allow adequate skills transfer that will not only give people a foot in the door, but effectively create new jobs in the economy? But also, other questions still arise. What is the role of tertiary institutions, and how much credit do they or should they shoulder responsibility for in terms of making the economy a tick? And Sandile Swana is a lecturer at the Wits School of Governance and co-authored a document titled "If Africa Grows, its universities diversify and its economies will flourish." And Sandile is here with me to discuss further these details with us. Thanks so much for coming through.
Thank you so much, Shakina.
So first and foremost, what were your impressions from last week's Job Summit?
I think that the picture that I have as I reflect on the Job Summit, Cyril Ramaphosa being the leader of the whole thing, is that, you know, Nelson Mandela, when he came out of prison, he said that we're going to have full employment, meaning that there's going to be an abundance of jobs rather than an abundance of labor with nowhere to go. And he repeated those statements even in 1995, that is going to eliminate poverty, have full employment. Now, Cyril was call him the protege of Mandela. Probably some say he was even the favorite candidate for presidency. Now, my picture is this. Did Cyril get many photographs with Mandela, or did he catch the Mandela spirit in terms of eradication of poverty and an eradication of unemployment in South Africa? So I am saying I'm going to wait and see, for the simple fact that this is not the first Job Summit under the ANC. Mandela had his Job Summit, Mbeki had his Job Summit, Zuma had his Job Summit, and in all this period, and the total number of people who are unemployed has actually increased since independence. It has increased. It was bad when Mandela took over. It has gotten worse. It has not gotten better. There have been Job Summit. This is not the first Job Summit.
So where does the solution lie, as you so adequately now outlined, you know, how we moved from our democratic dispensation, the inception of that, to where we find ourselves 2 decades later with a growing unemployment problem. But the president last week talking about corruption as perhaps the main problem here, and once again shying away from the inequality that exists in our country, in our economy. What is your take on that?
Yeah, interesting, because Mbeki was criticized exactly on the same point. Let's take a smaller issue there. The smaller issue that I would take is that if you look at government procurement, more than 90% is probably going to about 400 to 600 companies, leaving out the balance of the companies to battle it out on the remaining balance. Meaning that the very state procurement itself is concentrating wealth in big business into a small number of people. So that exacerbates inequality. It undermines the creation of emerging enterprises, black or white. So because any economy that will ever create jobs, it is the emerging, the young businesses. It is not the person who was there in the 1960s who's still in business today who creates new jobs. New jobs comes directly from new businesses, and new businesses that employ young people. So there's a dynamic of creativity that is in there. And then Mandela also mentioned, and it is true, and it was not discussed at all in this Job Summit, the issue of maximum productivity. Maximum productivity, I think, in the past 20 years has disappeared in our vocabulary. We no longer discuss that. And the things, the creative things and technologies that maximize productivity are not in discussion at this juncture. So that would be the first thing that I would say. Then the second thing I would say, in the bigger picture, when you talk about inequality, I looked at this, and the image I have is like this. If you look at South Africa, with 55% of the population being poor, meaning that they live on 32 rands a day, 32 rands a day and less. The richest poor person lives on 32 rands a day or less. And they make 55% of the population. Meaning that if we were to look at the country as a whole, let us say now poverty was an invader, a foreign army invading the country. It means they would have already taken all the provinces except the Northern Cape, Western Cape, and Eastern Cape. If a situation like that were to actually happen, if, let's say the Zimbabwean forces were to take all that land, we would know we're in crisis. But you and I, that has happened in the economy, but we're still very cool. We're eating ice cream, we're eating pizza, we're enjoying ourselves. The seriousness of the situation is not appreciated. So when you talk about poverty, you are talking about increasing poverty, which is linked to this inequality that is worsening in South Africa. So that is where we are on that situation. So there are solutions that need to be saying, what do you do, for instance? Do you have a concrete solution for Limpopo, which are the two West provinces, Limpopo and Eastern Cape, which are the repositories of poverty, the face of poverty, that those two provinces are the face. Have you actually developed solid plans, district by district, township by township, to actually eradicate poverty, not to accommodate it?
Well, very interesting there as you paint that picture. I want to come back, and when we do resume, I want to talk about these 275,000 jobs and also the skill situation in the country. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Mr. Sandile Swana will continue unpacking and analyzing last week's Job Summit with us.